What's up, y'all? This is Rom coming back at you with yet another car video. Nothing's really changed from back in the day. Nothing's really changed. And when I'm talking nothing, I don't mean like technology. Technology changes all the time, but people haven't changed. Because, you know, a lot of times when I talk about stuff, you know, every now and then I get, really since I've been on YouTube, they'll be like, hey, you're going to update the book for what's happening now. Or you going to, you know, things were different in your time and all of that. Usually from some dumbass motherfucker who don't know what happened in that time. Yeah, I'm going to say dumbass. I mean, if you lived in that time, then you have a place to speak. But even then, it depends on where you were hanging out at and who you were dealing with. And what prompted this, man, I don't know what it was. You know how you got memory, you know, you experience a lot, you got memories of stuff. And I don't know what it was. Was it a comment or it might have been a comment, like one of, because, you know, I be checking my comments and stuff. Yeah, I know I be seeing every one of them. Yeah, I know it. Even when some people try to get slick and they try to comment on somebody else's stuff, I read those too. Yeah, so, I thought that was somebody else. Anyway, right? You know, so I saw something, and I remember someone had said something similar. Now, this was the usual, you know, blame women, and they doing this and that, and the same statement. It was the exact same statement for people who go in on modern women, right? And I don't know, it was almost word for word the exact same thing, right? And I was just like, damn, wait a minute, deja vu. Then I remember when somebody had said something virtually word for word. It wasn't exact word for word, but virtually, to trigger it. And someone had said the same thing, but it wasn't online. We didn't really have online then. This was somebody who said this in a... It was in an office that I was working in. And the dude had serious issues. I mean, trust me, he would be all up in the red pill spaces, manosphere spaces, and not on the good side either, right? The type, if they had it back then, shoot, he might have like been a content creator on the negative side, right? Man, why does this thing look weird? Okay. I don't know if this tilted a little bit. I don't have time to mess with it. But anyway, right? Let me see. Hold up. Anyway, right? It is what it is. Anyway, yeah, he'd have been that type. And he has made the same, and he had made several statements. Yeah, remember that. That was in the summer of 1989. 1989. None of this shit is new. None of this shit is new. Only difference between then and now, we got social media that can broadcast it. All the women's behavior, everything. Everybody think it's some modern women, this, and they thinking traditional women. Oh, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, a lot of y'all moms got down. A lot of y'all moms got down. Don't get mad at me. Just accept that shit. Just accept it. Heck, and even before that, I remember my grandmother was telling me how people got down back in the 40s. Come on, man. Come on. But anyway, back to this dude. He was saying the same thing, but then, you know what? All of a sudden, you start thinking about other stuff from way back in the day. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I remember, okay, they were saying the same thing, or somebody saying the same thing right here. You know, I started going back to 1983. Because that's when I really started paying attention. Because, okay, I told you I went to Archbishop Carroll in D.C. That was all male high school, right? So you weren't interacting with women. But at the same time, it developed your game. Because if I saw, like, it couldn't be one of those things, you know, I pass notes and everything to some girl or look at her and stuff. Part of the reason why I was more aggressive when I was young, you saw a girl on the street, you had to, as we said, book her on the spot, which meant get her phone number. They would probably say something like, yeah, I get this right. Anyway, they would probably say something like, wait a minute, Anyway, they probably say something like, oh yeah, she put her, today they'll say, yeah, she put her number in my phone. Back then we just say, we booked her. You had to book a woman on the spot. So it was just like, but it was the same thing, approach. All this, like all this stuff, some of these guys, some of these PUA types talking about approaching and day game, all that shit, man, please. You go to an all-male high school, you had to do that then. You had to get numbers. You had to book her on the spot. You probably won't see her again. So even that, even some people thinking somehow they invented game in the late 90s, early 2000s, bullshit. If you want to, hey, if you're in the real world, shit, that's always been there. But that's just an aside. Yeah, I like rubbing people's faces and some shit. But remind them they didn't invent shit. Anyway, right? I started thinking about it. It's like, oh, every single thing. I don't care what your talking point is. You point, ask whatever the talking point. I can remember now, because now stuff is like flowing back. But I've been saying that, but you know how it's one of those days you start thinking about some shit and you're like, well, hold up, this ain't no new shit. This ain't no new shit. In fact, even groups of men getting together now, they ain't have the internet, of course, but they can still come together. I remember I went on a date with this woman. It been set up with this woman, a couple other women. Oh, that's a story. Anyway, it set me up with a friend of theirs. So, you know, picked her up. Ain't nothing really happened between me and a friend. I was like, but I picked her up. I remember picking her up at her house. She was still living with her family. She had a brother living there, too. And I remember I picked her up. There was a bunch of guys standing around talking about how the women were this, the women were that. Like, every single thing that dudes will say about modern women, these dudes were saying at this guy's home. There was about 4 or 5 of them. I'm going to say 5. 5 guys. 5 dudes. Not going anyplace. They sitting there. I'm picking her up. They up there complaining and everything. Word for word. Seriously, word for word. Except you throw out any words dealing with like social media or smartphones. You throw it out. They were saying the exact same things. They were saying the exact. And there's so many occasions of that. Guys saying, oh, the women doing this, the women doing that. I don't care what the subject was. I don't care what the subject was they were talking about. Hell, even they have online dating, but back then they had like those personal ads and stuff. They had personal ads back then. So it wasn't as sophisticated, but still the same principle. Not the technology, but the principle. And the whole thing, my whole point is, it's nothing new. But dudes back then, the players back then figured the shit out. Even before that. Because talking with my elders, they were saying the same thing. Like the same principles. You know? The same principles. Now, it's been some, the only changes are really superficial. You know, you got the online stuff and all of that, but it still comes down to man meets woman. Man and woman like each other. Man and woman decide to have sex or be in a relationship. It's still the same thing. You take away everything, it's still man's penis into woman's vagina. And then interacting. It hasn't been any changes. Seriously, it hasn't been any changes. Really, in several millennia. You probably got to go back before Homo sapiens to find some difference, and you might not find any then. But I'll just stick with what I know. Because that's when I really, and it's probably before that, but that's when I really paid attention, started in '83. Because then I was interacting with women outside of trying to get them on the streets. Or get them at the go-go. DC folks know what I'm talking about. Or mothers. Look, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Nothing's really changed. And see, a bunch of guys, but some guys have learned how to solve that. We figured it out. It was like, oh, okay, they're going to behave this way. Okay, this is how to get them. And the guys who follow that are doing the same things. Like even when I talk about body game, it's nothing new. It's nothing new. You know? Because even with guys using money, there's nothing new with that. And women cheating on those guys or treating them well or using them, there's nothing new with that. You can't point to anything. You can't point to anything. And especially a young person. If your ass was born in the 90s, if your ass was born in the 90s, no, let me put it another way. If you didn't come to adulthood in the 80s, reached the age of 18 in the 80s, you're not in a place to really speak on what happened during that time. And really, I saw some stuff in the 70s too. Very similar, but I wasn't paying as much attention. You're still a kid, man. Still a kid. So wasn't paying as much attention. But it was still the same. It's still the same principle. See, a lot of guys are messing up. See, here's the thing. A lot of guys messing up when somebody's already solved it. But then you got a lot of young guys, they don't want to listen to someone who's gone through it before. Who's gone through the stuff before and said, okay, this is what you do. Now, of course, somebody will say, well, with the social media and everything, you still got to meet them. Because it comes down, it's like a sport. Any sport, I don't care what rules they have, like in football, I don't care what rules they have. You know, you still got to run the ball. You still got to pass the ball. You still got to block. You still got to do the basics. You still got to do the basics. I don't care what it is. Now, how intense somebody plays, how fast they play, okay, you could say maybe it's a change there, but and they can change rules, but no matter what they do, you still got to get the ball in the end zone. If you're playing basketball, you still got to get the ball in the basket, you know? Regardless, you can change some, you can try to change some stuff, and yeah, you could say there's a, you know, with social media, online dating and everything, you can see pictures. There's some change, but you still got to meet them. You still got to connect to them and everything. But if you look at behavior, just behavior, there hasn't been a change. It really hasn't. As I always say, women just hid shit better back then. See, now, a woman cheating or something, a random person could break out the cell phone. Back then, they ain't had a phone. They couldn't just take a picture of it. Or if they did take a picture, happened to have a camera or something, you had to wait about 7 days for the film to develop, take it in, all that, and you might not have gotten a good picture. That's the light looks green to me, y'all. Oh, okay, I see what's up. The truck got to make a wide-ass turn, blocking everybody's way. Damn. Anyway, seriously. Because seriously, I think about, like, see, the only difference is people were seeing it in person. And then you could just kind of look at them, look at their behavior and see why. Like that guy I talked about who was on that job. That dude was a little crazy. And he was kind of mad at me because it was this, like, little honey on the job who, well, we ain't get together. She did come in I was there early. She came and sat on my lap. Gave me a kiss. He don't know that, but he could probably peep some type of vibe. And he actually said something to me. We could have almost got in a fight because he was mad because the women were cooler with me than they were with him. And this was an older dude too. This dude was older than me. I was still in school at the time. That was just a summer job. And the women, they talk some shit about him. They weren't feeling him. Okay, this person driving all slow. Anticipation is making me sway. Anyway, right? But it's the same thing. People, see, one of the problems is, it's just a basic problem. Some people solve it. Like, at the same time, if you look at how men were getting the women, it's the same way it's the exact same way men getting them now. Even before that. Both my grandfathers, they were players. Both of them. And they were getting women, same principles. Bait, because both were, both are athletic. Good body builds. They both of them were thorough. They could talk to the ladies, had that cool vibe with them, all of that stuff. they were doing the same things. And it works. It actually works. It's like, once again, playing a sport. If you're playing basketball, if you can like score baskets and play defense, it's gonna work. They can change all the rules, they can do all this stuff, but you still gotta dribble the ball, you still gotta shoot, and you still gotta rebound. And really, if people actually really looked at what I talk about, I just get basics. I don't give any. I mean, I can go deep, but I don't go to any other level. I don't really go deep publicly. I mean, I can give you the mechanics of something, but you still got to do the deep stuff. I can go metaphysical on why body game works, but you still gotta do some other stuff with it. It's how you use it. And y'all remember, whoever watched my video yesterday, you remember my cleaners was closed. So I gotta stop in here and get my stuff. You know, you gotta take care of that. So I'll give y'all part 2 in a second. Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm back. Got my clothes out the cleaners. Yeah. Got my suit out. I wore, chauffeuring my son last week to his prom. Anyway, check it out. I was talking about, like, the basics to getting women. Really hasn't changed. I'm saying basics, not all that extra stuff. And I know some people say, well, money has changed. Well, it depends on who you're dealing with. Women got their own money. But one thing women are doing more is more about basics and connection, really. Because it was a time with certain populations, if you had like a lot of money, that really moved a woman. But not to the same extent. But even then, it's still the basics. Now, body game is basics. Women, they like a man physically. I mean, that's just the basic of it. They like to look at him. That's it. I mean, it's not rocket science. She got to be comfortable with what you look like naked. Now, you don't have to be Mr. Perfect or everything, or big and buff. You don't have to be. It helps. It helps when you have muscles, but she just has to be comfortable with it, whatever she likes. That's why I say that's the basic, because if you look at a lot of women, if they don't have a physical attraction for a man, and that's overall, if they don't have an overall physical attraction for a man, they don't want to deal with him. And they have to have it or be comfortable with it. Even when a woman will get with a guy that she calls ugly, she finds it attractive. So that's basic game. I haven't seen it changed. I haven't seen a change in that. And it's always been that way. It's always been that way. The jocks have always gotten women. You talk about that jocks versus nerd paradigm. That started in the 50s. Or they started talking about it in the 50s. It really went before that. It's always been that way. That's when they, like, at least the earliest I know they started talking about 1950s. So if you're athletic or something, shoot, that's why a lot of guys play sports. They were getting the women, shoot. I remember back in the 70s. Shoot, when I was in 8th grade, we had this little basketball team, because we had this school, it went from kindergarten to 8th grade. We had a little basketball team, and I remember this one player, this one dude, his nickname, the first part of his nickname was Muscle. That's what he had. His last name began with an M. I'm not gonna call it, but they call him Muscle. I remember some girls saying, hey, they wanted to go to the game to see his legs. Shoot, that's the 70s. Nothing new. If you like all the jocks and stuff, I knew. The D1 basketball players, I knew. Women like their bodies. They like those athletic bodies. Hell, if you ain't totally muscular, at least look like you can play ball. Shoot, basketball courts back then. You playing ball, there was also some girls looking. Always some girls checking out the jock. Body game. Shoot, I remember I went to visit my uncle. This back, shoot, when was this? When was this? Either late 70s, early 80s and stuff, still in high school. Oh, by the way, got attention for playing, like, for being able to play ball. But I remember they had just moved into a house, and I remember him and my step-grandfather, we just throwing the football around, and they would put me in some patterns and stuff. And this little girl next door, she was sitting there staring. So that body game, shit, that ain't something new. That's been working. Because the women, they go and check. They want to check out your bodies. You know? And that's just the beginning, though. Just being stylish, dressing stylish. You know, people, they call it drip or whatever word they're using now. Being concerned with the fit. Now it's just like, it was the same thing. It was the basics, okay? The appearance, that's your bait. You still had to talk to a woman. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. When I was young, they just said it was the rap. You had to have a good rap. Now they'll call it mouthpiece or... Yeah, they'll call it mouthpiece or Riz now. They'll use Riz. It was the same exact thing. That ain't something new. That ain't something new. Same exact thing. Yeah, they had that Riz. They call it Riz now. But now, shoot. A couple years from now, they'll call it something else. But it's still the same thing. You still got to be able to talk to that woman. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. Women still respond the same way to Riz. Back then it was rap. You know. Recent years, mouthpiece, whatever the case. They still responding. Responding to your fit. Oh, they like your shoes. Something like that. Shit, that's when you really found that. That's when I found out about the just the clothes and the shoes. How you dress. You know, how you talk to them. And then just turning them on sexually. Ain't nothing changed with that. How's that going to change in a few years? Sex itself. Sex itself. Your penis go in her vagina, you satisfy. Women still looking for that. You looking for that. What's changed about that? In fact, anybody who really think, I tell you what. Here's a challenge. And I don't care about, like on this channel, I don't give a shit about deleting a comment, but in an intelligent way, please tell me how sex has changed. Sex, not the social aspect. Sex itself, the physical act of sex has changed between the 80s and now. Please tell me, not the social aspect. If somebody try to talk about the social, I'm talking actual, the physical act of it. Please tell me. And then tell me, okay, how old you were in the 80s. In fact, you got to start with that. If you're going to say something's changed, you say, okay, this is how old I was in the 80s. Please tell me how sex itself has changed. The act of sex has changed. Not the social aspects. Because there's always an argument about that, no matter what I say. No matter what, even in this video, there's always going to be an argument about that. That's too easy. Tell me physically. If you've had sex in the 80s, tell me how that's changed. The physical act of it has changed between then and now. All right? I want to see that. Seriously. Like the physical act of it. All right? Even the higher aspects. I mean, come on now. You got Kumasatra, everybody. Kumasatra, whatever. Potato. Tomato, whatever the case. Please tell me. Tell me, please. How has the physical act of sex changed? Not the social aspect of getting it. Tell me how it's changed. And then before you answer it, if you don't answer, start off with saying, this is where you were. Oh, yeah, hold up. I'm gonna make it even harder. You gotta tell me your age and where you at and where you were. What street you from. And I'm dead serious, seriously. My point is, with all of this, nothing's changed. If you focus on the basics, you're gonna get the women. Because that's what the smart kids, the young people now, and they ain't doing anything new. They staying in decent shape. The young guys getting the women now, staying in decent shape. Got some Riz. Yeah, maybe good enough in bed to get a call back. That's it. That is it. So that's the thing. That's what you want. There's nothing. Because everybody's saying it, and you know, but one thing then and one thing now, a lot of guys ain't developing their basics. That's really a major issue. Just the basic elements, just the plain basic elements of it, and everything. A lot of guys having to just simply develop that. They worry about all this other stuff, talking about all this other irrelevant stuff. I'm like, well, shoot. Get your body in shape, learn how to dress, work on that wrist. And nah, you ain't, all it is just talking. You just practicing. Like I always tell guys to practice, you know, start out by saying hi to 3 women a day. I've had several guys come back and say, you know what, it made them more comfortable talking to women. Because the more and more you get comfortable, more and more you used to dealing with different women, the more and more you develop that wrist. Are you going to be like, have that just super powered wrist? Probably not, but enough to get a decent woman. Enough to like have some social skills. Because really, that's what it's all coming down to. Because really, I'm going to tell you what, the biggest issue, it's not even body game or something, it's just social skills. Social skills. I know a young man now, shoot, women always checking him out. But his social skills are just like, and I told him that. He's somebody who's a friend of one of my sons. But, you know, because I look at everything and I'm like, damn, this happened here. In fact, I'm gonna start even doing that. Well, I've been saying that. I'm gonna pay attention even more. It's like, oh, they're saying that, and I'm serious. Every time I see something, every time somebody say, "Well, is this happening here?" Well, yeah, behavior-wise. Like I said, the only difference is the technology. That's the only difference is technology. And actually, if you have the basic skills, look, let me just be real. If you have basic skills, if you have, you know, you keep yourself physically up. Now, I always recommend, you know, getting some muscle on, but if you don't, you don't. Whatever you do physically, keep it decent. I say at a decent. If on a scale from 1 to 10, if you keep your physical presence at a 5, at a minimum, keep your physical presence at a 5. Learn to dress to complement your body. You know, get some good colognes. You know, just keep your physical appearance up. Learn how to talk to women and stuff. If you got those basics and you get online, you ain't gonna have a problem. Even then, no matter what, because it still comes down to that. Women make a decision most cases in 3 seconds. They only go against that if they're in a position to get to know you. But if you're talking on first look, when you generally meet them, oh, especially online, they make those swipes within a second. You know, but you got a good appearance and stuff, and then good communication skills. You all either shoot. That's going to shoot. Online is going to make it easier for you. That's going to make it easier. Shoot, you should shoot. It's easy. That's why I always say, shoot, it's easier nowadays. Because I ain't big online, but I remember that time, it was me and my nephew, Offie Kingdom. And we were, he said we both tried like Bumble or something. I forgot what he said was happening with him on Bumble. But I tried it. Met quite a few women. I didn't feel like meeting them, talk to them. Talked to a whole bunch. More than 2 hands I could count. Just for something to do. It was easy. They picked me. That's how they do on Bumble. Still not a big fan of that. I'd rather see him in public. It's too easy, really. But if you got the basics, no matter what you do, it's going to work. That's all I'm teaching. So, anyway, y'all, interesting day today. A little bit earlier recording this, but I got family stuff. So, anyway, I'll talk to y'all. Peace and blessings.